I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. So thank you for tuning in, Foxy listeners. I'm really excited about today's episode. As you guys all know, humor is very important, not only in my personal life, but in my business life. It's why my tagline is have fun, because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it? And that's why I am super excited that I have Joseph on the show today, because he is the king of knowing how to have funny and add it to videos. Joseph, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks. It's fun to be here.
So let's give a little bit of background for some people who are like, who's Joseph? So tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got here.
Sure. I'll give you the short version. So I grew up in London. My dad was a fashion photographer in the advertising industry, so it was kind of in my blood as far as the creativity. I went to college, studied graphic design, and then my first job out of college, they wanted to start doing some videos. And so they sent the graphic designer off to some courses, and I basically taught myself. This was before the days of YouTube. After a couple of years of doing that, I started my own video production company, primarily producing infomercials, television, full-length 30-minute television infomercials. The first one we ever did was Little Giant Ladder infomercial that did over $200 million in sales, which blew my mind. And we were a small part of that production, but that gave me the taste of what a really good creative content could do as far as driving sales if you got it in front of millions of people. So for about 15 years, that's what we did. Short form and long form television commercials, and then website sales videos. But the problem is, I don't know about you, I can't remember the last time I watched TV, regular, traditional, old-fashioned TV. And so our customers started saying, hey, we're not getting the views that we used to get, therefore we're not getting the sales. Your invoice isn't going down. So how can we, justify what we're spending for less and less of a result? And so about 5-ish years ago is when we really started to panic and said, how can we get back to the days when we were getting millions and millions and millions of people watching our commercials, and more importantly, millions and millions of dollars in return. And that's when we really started to look hard at what some of these agencies like the Harmon Brothers and other agencies were doing with these really funny, really viral style, at least they looked like they were viral videos. But we knew that we couldn't, with the kinds of customers that we had, we knew that we couldn't charge them what we had heard these other agencies were charging for those kinds of really well-crafted videos. And so we basically made it our mission to become the, lower cost option to produce these kinds of videos, which are essentially, sketch comedy that sneaks in advertising to kind of trick you into watching them and liking them, but then suddenly realizing, oh, I have that problem too. And, one thing led to another, and now that's pretty much all we do. So to give you a quick compare and contrast that I think really underscores the value of why this is so important. For 15 years, we would still put our clients' ads and sales videos on their websites and on YouTube. And the biggest view count we ever got on a single video was 100,000 views, which we thought at the time was pretty good. After we launched funnysalesvideos.com and created this team of really talented writers, our very first project was over 7 million views for a very small niche audience. Fast forward to today, we're close to hitting 100 million views on our biggest campaign, which is True Earth, that we can talk about, and that's over multiple videos, but just orders of magnitude more successful than anything that we've ever done, over the past 20 years.
Yeah. And they work, because I bought True Earth because of one of the commercials.
Yay, success.
So I'm proof positive that it worked. I just thought it was so hilarious. Like, the commercial was it just made me laugh like crazy, that I was like, all right, I have to try this product and just see if it's any good. See if it's as good as the commercial.
Right?
And it is. I love it.
Good product. Yeah.
Yeah. It's what's on my shelf. So I always think it's funny whenever I see it. I'm like, hey, I bought because of that commercial, which I usually don't. And that's the funny thing that I found that the humor did for me personally, was that I would see lots of commercials, and if it would have been sort of a straight laced, like, this is how this can help the environment, I probably would have been like, it's okay. Like, I'm comfortable with using the detergent my mom used, because that's just what I did. But for me, it was the humor that made me go, I need to try this.
I love hearing that. That's music to my ears. And a lot of people will say, well, my product's just not funny. Well, how boring is laundry detergent? You can't get more boring. It's nothing to do with your product. It's to do with creating a fun story that people will get hooked into listening to. That's all we need you to do, is just give us a little of your time to listen, but you have to earn that time by something like making you laugh. And that's the key.
Yeah. And just the work in it is, and that different concept, I think, because I think, there's too many people that are out there that are in business that take themselves too seriously. And I think that this is a wonderful way to sort of like show a different side of you, that you can still be serious. You can still be, if we take this example, you can still be concerned about the environment and everything. But, if you can make laundry detergent funny, I'm sure there's no product out there that you can't find humor in.
Exactly. And the most important thing that your listeners should think about, as they listen to this episode and think about, should I do something like this in my marketing, is the reason why people are on these platforms in the first place, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, whatever the platform of choice. The reason they go there in the first place is to take a break from their 9 to 5 or whatever they're doing. They're going there to be entertained. They're going there to waste some time, and the last thing they want to see is a commercial. They want some fun, and the closer you can make your content to the reason why they're there in the first place, the more likely you are to get some of their time, which will also ultimately lead to sales if you do certain steps in that video. It's not just about making you laugh. That's the first step. Then it's about telling a relevant story that will connect to a problem that they have, and ultimately a solution that you can deliver.
So for people that are out there listening, obviously the easiest thing would be to call you guys up and say, hey, you do it. But there are some of our listeners out there that might not be in that situation to be able to do that. So you've created, this great ebook and these great steps that anybody can take. And so let's dive a little bit into the 8 steps.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we basically put together this ebook because we're a very small agency. We only take on a certain amount of projects. And we also like to kind of cherry pick projects that we think are good products that do good in the world in a lot of cases. And so when people call us where it's not a fit, we'll just send them this ebook and say, either work with a local video production company, or you can even do a lot of these steps yourself. I mean, when I started this company 20 years ago, it would cost $50,000 to get what every one of us have in our pocket right now,
right,
which is a camera that takes great looking images. So you can do a lot of this yourself if you want to get better results. Obviously, if you do every one of these steps with professionals, you're going to get, the best results. But I'll run through real quickly, and then maybe you can, ask me more details on any of them. But, step one is discovery, learning about your customer. It's marketing 101. You cannot go out and write a script for somebody that you don't know. It's like going to the mailbox and deciding at the mailbox, who am I going to address this letter that I've just written?
Right.
That's a ridiculous concept. But that's what we do as marketers, is we think we know who our customer is without really making sure we do. So understanding, what are their real reasons for buying your product? What are the situations, who are they? What are the demographics, but also psychographics? What keeps them up at night? And the closer that you can write your script with a single person, a customer avatar in mind, the more you're going to hit the mark. Nothing makes me smile more. And we got this literally thousands of times on that True Earth campaign. Nothing makes me smile more than a comment that says, "That's me." Or I love that person. I want to be friends with that person. They connect on a level, and it's because we're writing with a single person in mind. And the closer we can get to that customer demographic, the more it's going to resonate. So anyway, number one is do your research. And a quick way to do that is read a ton of your own customer reviews, read a ton of your competitors' reviews, really try to figure out what's inside the minds of these people. Step two is brainstorm as many different ideas as you can. Nobody ever gets it on the first try. You always want to throw out as many different, outlandish, off the wall ideas. Sometimes the worst ideas will lead to the better ideas. And so don't ever filter. We will go through close to 50 different brainstorm ideas before we distill it down to about 5 that we think are really our top 5. And then we'll present it to our client, and between us, we'll determine the one brainstorm. Now, a brainstorm is nothing more than, who is the person we're going to feature as our hero in this video, and what's the problem that they have? 2 simple questions. Now, the crazier and the more, outlandish that you create that character, the more entertaining it's going to be. But you also need to ground everything in reality. Again, coming back to that customer avatar. So I can't really tell you, how do you brainstorm? There are books on that, but all I can say is the more ideas you throw out there, the closer you're going to be to getting to the one that's really going to work for you. Step 3 is doing the scripting. So once you've identified, here's my high level concept, you want to go through multiple revisions of your script, because you want to get a draft of the script that basically covers what are your 4 or 5 top selling points, right? And you want to make sure that the number 1 selling point is mentioned a lot more than your number 5 selling point. But, and we can talk about length in a minute. Our videos are about 3 to 4 minutes long. And a lot of marketers will say, that's crazy. Well, I'll talk later about data that we have that proves that it's not. But if you've got a 3 to 4 minute video, you can mention all 5 of your selling points, and you can mention number 1 multiple times to hit people over the head with, this is the reason why, and this is how your life is going to be better. You also may want to include your number 1 reason why people don't buy your product and overcome that objection. So your product may be more expensive than your competitor. Well, if you don't mention why is it more expensive and why will that ultimately make it so that you have to buy less of them, so the cost in the end is lower, then the customer's just left guessing and they won't buy because they think you're too expensive. Or there might be another reason. But if the problem is big enough that 80% of your customers think it's a problem, you got to address it. If 1 out of 10 mentions it, don't mention it. So again, this is just your marketing framework for the script. Then we will then hand that off to a storytelling script writer who will put the narrative into it to basically create the story, take that marketing copy points that we just did, and inject it into the character's world and create, the situations that are going on. And then, so that's step 3 is the scripting. Step 4 is adding the comedy. And this is the fun part, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, in fact, for the first 15 years, when our clients would call us and say, hey, I saw this funny video, we want to do something like that. Ironically, I would say, sorry, we don't do funny. Call someone else.
Right.
Because we didn't have the team. The worst thing that you can do is try to be funny and end up looking silly. There's a fine line. And I think this is the reason that most people don't go down this route and probably shouldn't on their own. This is one of 2 steps in this 8-step process that I always say, do not do it yourself. Hire professionals. So even in our case, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I don't write my own jokes. I have people who literally do nothing but comedy for a living. Some of them work on cruise ships, so they have free time during the day because they only work at night. Some of them are traveling comedians that go from stand-up comedy club to stand-up comedy club. During the day, they're traveling, so they freelance for me. Some of them I found on Fiverr or Upwork, and that's what they do. Comedy is a very, it's an art, and it's a skilled art that you either have it or, maybe you can, the jury is probably out on whether it's something that you can train yourself to do. But I will typically have at least 5 different professional comedy writers working on each script. So by the time we get through the script, I've had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different writers' thumbprints on the script. I don't know if you used to watch Millionaire or if it's even running anymore, but the #1 lifeline was ask the audience.
Right.
Because the wisdom of the crowd is always going to give you a better answer than one person's opinion. So step 4 is adding the comedy. Step 5 is the actual production. And this is, you'd think as a guy that's worked in video production for 20 years, I'd say the most important part is to hire professional cameras and lighting and sound. It's not. The most important part of the production is casting the right actor or actors. And that's the second step that you should not try to do yourself. If you're doing comedy, now there's a time and a place for a CEO to get on the camera and talk to his audience. That's fine. But unless that CEO is a trained comedy improv actor, they shouldn't try to, to deliver scripted lines that were intended for a professional actor. So this kind of video, I typically don't advise employees or founders be in their own videos. I bring in skilled professional actors that are, in a lot of cases, trained improv comedians that'll give me even more than what's on the script on the day of the shoot. So casting and going through a ton of auditions to find the right characters is key. And then obviously, if you've got the budget, it's going to make it even better if you do bring in the professionals to do the sound, the lighting, the cameras, because what you're ultimately trying to do is stop the scroll, right? As your customer is on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, they are bombarded with other people's ads. And your ad needs to stand out from frame 1. And the best way to do that is to look different and use different techniques because everyone else is filming with their iPhone. So the more you can do to make that frame look different, the better. So after the production, step 6 is the editing. Timing is key with comedy. And the same joke that was delivered on camera a certain way can be edited to be quicker, to cut a breath here or to cut from a wide shot to a close-up and speed things up. And you'd be amazed at the things that we can fix in editing that didn't quite jive on set, but we can reorder shots or again, use different angles and things just work if you have an editor who knows what they're doing. Step 7 So you have a question?
No, I think that's a really good point, because I think, I was thinking when you were talking about production and who you have in there, I always think you can have the funniest joke, but if it's not delivered the right way, it can totally bomb. Whereas someone else, who's, if you're trying to deliver something that's energetic and you look stone faced, it just doesn't come across the same way. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I think it's a good point, because people always try to go, well, I think I can do it, I'm really funny. And it's like, but
Yeah.
who's laughing at you?
Yeah, your mom might think you're funny and tell you you're funny,
Yeah.
but cold traffic doesn't care. And
Yeah.
that's really what we care about. A couple power tips. Now you brought that up. A couple of power tips for your listeners is a lot of people don't realize that auditioning actors doesn't cost you a penny. We will typically look at about 100 actors on the websites of these acting agencies, and then we'll request maybe 20 of them to do reads that they do at home on their own laptops or phones, and then send to us, and we review all of those actors. And then typically we'll bring the top 3 either into our studio for an in-person audition or on a Zoom like this, and, test them to see, can you say that line faster? Can you say it quicker? Can you put the emphasis on this word? You want to make sure they can think on their feet rather than just when they're in the comfort of their own home and can do as many takes on their, home
right before they send it. Right.
Exactly. But that whole process costs nothing. It only costs you when you pick the final actor and bring them on set for the shoot day. So, it's really a great way to go through and make sure that your script is working with real actors. And sometimes, the auditioning process will help us say, oh, that joke doesn't really fit, or, we got to change this line because it's not working. The other thing is a great improv actor will come up with stuff on the day of the shoot if you give the day time to breathe. A lot of people are so rushed and stressed, we've got to get this line and then this line and this. They don't leave, 10 minutes here and there to just say to the actor, how would you deliver it? And sometimes, in fact, almost every one of our videos will be somewhat different to the script that we wrote, because better things, serendipity happens on set if you do it right and give the right actor the chance to, do what they do best.
Yeah, I love that.
So step 7 is testing. And really this should be kind of, step 1A, step 2A, step 3A, because you want to test all along the way to make sure that it's resonating not only with you, but more importantly on your customer avatar. So before you take that script into production, have some people read it that fit your customer demographic and say, is there something confusing here? Do you think this is funny? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Would you, listen to their questions after they've read the script, and they'll tell you, what they like, what they don't like, and you can adjust. Then obviously when you've edited the video, that's really when you can do a lot of testing. And I actually did a LinkedIn vlog last week on this very subject. If any of your listeners want to take a look at it, it's really quite revealing. What we typically do is we'll do the same video with 3 completely different opening hooks. The opening hook is the most important part of your video because it's the first 5 to 10 seconds that's going to stop people and get their attention. And so we'll do 3 totally different visual hooks and test them with a small budget on YouTube or Facebook and see which one performed the best before we go ahead and launch the campaign with the lion's share of the budget on the version that tested out the best. We also do that with calls to action. We'll do 3 different calls to action. So one could be a, buy one, get one free. One could be get a 25% discount. One could be, an evergreen version. And there's all these different versions of the finished video. We also do long versions and short versions of each video. And so the digital marketing team has all of the tools that they need to really test and find the best performing version of the video rather than just relying on your own gut. And then the final step, step 8, is probably the most disheartening to most people, It's where I reveal that these are not organically viral videos. The goal here is not to create a video, put it on YouTube, and pray that it goes viral. I mean, what kind of a business plan is that?
Well, and it doesn't usually work. Like I've found in like previous companies that I've had where I've done, it was a crafting store and I did videos. The ones that I was like, this is going to be a good video, didn't. But the ones that I was like, I'm just going to put this out there because I thought it would. And then I was like, why did that one go crazy? Like, I don't understand. Right.
Exactly. And that's actually exactly what my LinkedIn vlog post was about. We did 3 different hooks. I show you each of the 3 different hooks and I say, which one do you think performed the best? A lot of the time, it's not the one that we think. That's why you've got to have good testing, a good digital marketing specialist that can say, here's the data to prove that this video will do the best. And then what the whole goal of doing these videos is kind of like if I was to say to you, if I put a vending machine in your office and it's full of $100 bills and it only costs $20 to use the machine, how many $20 bills are you going to want to spend?
A lot.
Yeah.
All of them.
An unlimited supply.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what our videos are intended to do. They're intended that when you spend $20 on advertising, it'll bring you back, $40, $60, $80, $100. It's about return on ad spend. And again, the video that I just did a comparison on my LinkedIn post, it did a 4.1 ROAS, meaning every time we spent $100 on advertising, we got $401 in return. How many times are you going to want to quadruple your money? I mean, if you're a retirement broker, that's kind of Disneyland to you. So that's what these videos are meant to do. They're meant to be used as paid ads on social platforms that will bring you back, in our experience, double, triple the return on ad spend that you're currently getting with your boring ads.
Right. And I think that's important. Like, I'm glad that you brought it up because a lot of times people say you just put it out there and, keep putting it, boost it, just time, just give it time. But people don't understand that there is like almost there's math behind, a lot of these viral videos. Not to say that you can't maybe strike it, but the likelihood is.
The tables are actually turned against you. It used to be that these platforms would allow these videos to go viral, but the algorithms on Facebook and other platforms like that are designed to spot an ad, right? They know the difference between a silly cat video and a company that's going to make millions of dollars if that video goes quote unquote viral. And so they want you to pay to play. It's only fair that if you're using their platform that they get remunerated. So their algorithm will actually, if you put an ad out there that performs well, that people will click on, watch through, and then buy from, that will increase or actually decrease your per view cost. But also if they see people start liking it and sharing it and commenting on it, which is our videos have tens of thousands of likes and shares and comments, and Facebook sees that. And there is a percentage of our video views that are organically viral, maybe 5 to 10%. But the lion's share is always there for paid placement. And it's like a snowball. You got to get it rolling before it gets out into enough people that you get that virality effect. But again, it's all about a repeatable business model. If you're a CEO looking at the bottom line and seeing, well, how much money are we going to spend on marketing next month? You don't want to say, okay, let's spend a bunch of money creating a video that we hope will go viral. Right. No, you want to say, what's a good, predictable, repeatable way that we can see that we're going to get a return on this investment? And that's what, that's the most sure way that I've seen in 20 years to do that today is by following the steps that are in the ebook that I just outlined.
So let's talk a little bit about length of videos, because there's so, we all hear everybody has short attention spans. We know that we have to catch people's attention right away because of scrolling. So
Yes.
talk a little bit about what your experience is in regards to that.
Yeah. So I've always heard from my clients, hey, my Facebook rep says my ad needs to be 10 seconds and it needs to, shove the call to action down your throat within the first 5 seconds. And for the kinds of videos that most people are putting on Facebook, that's absolutely true. But we have seen the longer versions of our videos. See, when we produce a video, we'll typically do like a 3 to 3.5, maybe 4-minute version. And then we'll cut that down to a 2-minute or less version so that we can, play it on platforms that don't allow longer videos. And in most cases, not all cases, and again, this is where testing comes in the majority of cases, the long video outperforms the shorter video. Now, why is that? If Facebook is saying we need 10 to 15 second videos, well, we look at our video as a 10 to 15 second video that then is followed by a 3-minute video. What I mean is, think about what I said earlier about those hooks. The goal of our video is to start out hooking your attention. People don't stop watching videos because they're too long. They stop watching them because they get bored. They stop watching them because they're irrelevant. They stop watching them because, they want to get on to the reason they were on the platform in the first place and be entertained. Netflix is still around. They show 2-hour-long videos. That proves that people will still stick around and watch long videos. The problem isn't short attention spans. The problem is the lack of creativity. So if you have really good creative, the more you tell, the more you'll sell. So the longer I can keep you watching my video, the higher the probability that I'm going to convert you to a customer. But I have to put in blood, sweat, and tears to create something worthy of your attention. And that's why our campaigns, clients call me all the time. Hey, I need a video next month. Sorry, our videos take at least 4 months to produce, but there's a reason. We got to make sure we earn that attention. And that only happens by doing all of those 8 steps the right way. So that's a long way to answer your question. Is length is almost irrelevant. It's creativity that you need. And we basically see our video as a whole series of hooks. So we'll show you an opening hook that's just there to grab your attention. Then we'll give you some information about the product or about the problem. Then we'll give you another hook, whether that's a joke, whether that's something shocking, when that's something visually arresting. It's a continuous symphony of, hook, educate, hook, sell, hook, credibility, hook, so the whole way through the video, there's no point in the retention curve when we look at our data of when people are bouncing that is dramatically dropping off, other than sometimes when we introduce the product, because then people, kind of realize, oh, this is an ad. And that's normal. That's part of the psychology of people watching these videos. But at the end of the day, if we've got 50 million videos on one video for True Earth, which we do, about 5% of those maybe will watch all the way through, which sounds like a really small number, but 5% of 50 million, that's a huge number. So it's all about numbers.
Yeah. And I know I can say for a couple of the True Earth ones, and I'll make sure that I link to the one that's my favorite, because it's the one of the guy when he's talking about how strong he is and how manly it is to do laundry. I'm sure I have about 100 views because I'm like, you have to see this video. It's so funny, but it's funny because it comes out as me sharing the video because I'm like, it's so funny. It just makes me laugh. But, thinking back, that conversation has always turned in when I show it to somebody, they're like, have you ever used it? And I'm like, oh yeah, I love the laundry, but wasn't that funny? But it's something that sticks. And even when I think back, going back to traditional television, most of the commercials, I always say I could probably have 5 languages if I didn't remember song lyrics and funny jokes and stuff like that in my head. But the ones I remember are the humorous ones. They're not the serious ones, or the ones that, super educated me.
So a funny story about that video, that was the second True Earth video that we did. And it was a direct result of reading the comments from the first video. So in the first video, it was all about a woman, right? The mom, the main character for pretty much every other video that's in there. But somebody commented and said, this is really funny, but I'd love to see a video about a man doing laundry. Bing, 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 light bulb moment. And that is a direct result of just listening to what your customer has to say. And a lot of people, I think that video now has 20 million views. It's coming, it came after the first video, but just as successful as far as people liking, commenting, sharing, and ultimately, opening it up to not just a male or a female, but a male audience as well. We had a lot of comments on those from men that say, I identify with that guy.
Yeah. Well, and it was good. It was, it was brought forward. I think that I even found it humorous, in just watching him saying, it's manly to like sort your laundry. And, I remember like elbowing my husband and being like, see?
Right. And people digitally elbowed their husband by tagging their husbands.
Yeah.
Right.
Be more like this guy.
Yes.
So
especially when he take his shirt off.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was a good one too. You can't complain about any of those ones. I mean, so if people, let's talk a little bit about, so there's people that are out there that might be going, I really want to do this, or I do want to add more humor. I always suggest adding more humor into what you do. I don't care what you sell. I mean, if someone can make potpourri for, when you're going to the bathroom amusing, I'm pretty sure that there's no product out there that you can't do it. Or like you said, laundry detergent, which is never known to be a sexy item. But you've been able to change that. So obviously, there are some that are going to try to do them themselves. But like you had said, it is a good idea to have those that are really skilled in this. I consider myself funny in a group of people. I'm known, around my family and friends as I'm the humorous one, but I'm not foolish enough to think I can get up on stage and do this as a career.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like I know where my limitation is in regards to that. And I will leave that, to the professionals. So if someone is sitting out there and they're thinking, yeah, I need to leave this to the professionals, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you and see if you guys would be a good fit?
Oh, just go to our website, funnysalesvideos.com. That's where you can take a look at all the videos that we've been talking about today, but then just scroll down to the bottom and there's a little form that you can fill out, or just shoot me an email, joseph@funnysalesvideos.com. And the other place, if you liked any of what we've talked about today, I have a podcast that I do with a business partner. It's called How to Make a Video Go Viral. And we go into way more information on all of these subjects. So check that out.
And we'll make sure that we have all of the links to where you can reach these. And a few of my favorite commercials that you've done. I'm going to link to those too, because I think more people should watch them and buy the product, but definitely watch the video.
Buy the product. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and all of these, I think these 8 steps are fantastic for even people, that are doing videos. I think that it'll give them a good sort of point of view of maybe looking at how they're doing stuff a little bit differently until they can get to the point of hiring the professionals.
Yeah. And you can download that ebook the same place. Everything's just on our homepage, funnysalesvideos.com.
It has been an absolute pleasure, Joseph. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine.
Joseph has so much more packed into the ebook. I think we only covered maybe a 10th of all of the information that's in it. So I do encourage you to head to our website at foxtalksbusiness.ca, Click on blogs on the left-hand side of the page. You will see this episode, the link to get the ebook, connect with him, and as well, the link to some of my favorite commercials that he's done. So I encourage you to do that. As always, if you can take a moment of your time to leave us a review, send us an email, send us a PM, a DM, however you want to get in touch with us. I love hearing your ideas of not only people, but topics that you want us to cover. So no matter what you're doing today, make sure that you always find time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?